As promised, today I'm going to take you guys through a sew along or a sew with me, and that is the Sew House 7 brand of free range slacks. Now I've made these before in a khaki. Today we're making them in a lyocell linen blend in a rust colour, and I've got all my pattern pieces here. I'll go through in a moment. Now all that you really need apart from your thread and your machine is a 4 centimetre thick elastic. The best ones to go for are the non-roll or the ribbed. This one in particular is a bit wider than 4 centimetre. It's more heading towards a 5 centimetre, but with being the high waisted pants, I think the thick elastic works really well. Personally, I like a nice weighty kind of elastic because the smaller and thinner your elastic is, the more likely the waistband will roll over itself. So yeah, go for a nice sturdy thick elastic. The best way to measure it is get it around your waist and get it nice and firm and comfortable, how you would want to wear your waistband, and that basically gives you your waist measurement. So it's very adaptable, and they're very forgiving pants. They actually have got quite a lot of ease in them, a lot of room. I actually found that the straight size 14 worked perfectly for me. Now the recommended fabrics are a bottom weight fabric, so something like either a cotton, a denim, a linen cotton blend, a drill, so anything that's got a little bit more weight to it. I think you could possibly do them in a lighter weight fabric. It would give you a different kind of looking pant, but by sticking to the recommended fabrics, you're going to get that kind of more structured looking pant, which is what they're after. And it can also be made in a wool gabardine if you're wanting something more of a warmer weight pant. Now you can do these pants in a wide leg or a tapered leg that folds up at the bottom. I've done the other ones in the tapered leg that rolls up. I'm going to do these ones in the same, and I decided to keep it for the full length. You can crop them. The good thing about the pattern is that you can actually alter them to be a cropped wide leg or a cropped tapered or full length in either way. So it gives you quite a lot of options there. Now I'll take you through the pattern pieces. It's fairly basic style pattern. The only difference with a normal pant pattern would be that these ones have a side panel, which is unusual, and it gives a really nice line to the pant as well. I'll go through the pattern pieces here. The one in particular, I know if you make the same mistake I did, you'll be cutting out fabric and you'll realize you didn't need to. This is actually your top stitch guide. If you want to follow the front pockets and get that really neat top stitching guide, you will just use this as a template and pop it over the top of your front panel pants. So that one you don't need to cut out anything for. This is just your top stitching guide, and you'll use your own size to follow the top stitching. Piece would be the front and back waistband. So you'll need 2 of those, and always remember to follow your green line. So that one's going up and down. This pattern took 2.2 meters of a 150 width. So you'll need that little bit extra. I mean, normally a pair of pants you'll get out of 2 meters for anything up to a size 16, but being with the pockets and the side panels, you might need a little bit extra than normal. So you need two waistbands, so the front and the back, and they've got the angled sides on them. Okay, we've got the facing edging of the pockets, and that's a really unusual shape too. You'll see that. The next pattern pieces we've got are the front pockets, so you'll need 2 of those. Okay, remembering to look at your green line as well. And then we have got 2 side panels. Same thing, running with your grain line. You've got 2 options. Remember, view A and view B are different with a wide leg and short leg. So you'll see here that it's got mark at this end at the top, mark this end at the bottom, because when you're actually popping it on the pants, you can get confused, and that's got quite a different angle at the top to the bottom. Also too, with your pant legs, if you need to shorten or lengthen them on your actual pant pieces, you need to do the same thing with your side panels to match up the same way. Okay, don't forget to mark all your notches as well. So you always have to do 2 notches for your back side and 1 notch is for the front. And then we've got 2 back pieces. Now you'll notice how it also says on here pocket placement. You can either use chalk to put your dots for your size, or I think I've used a pin for these, and for the bottom as well, so that when you go to place your pocket pieces on, you'll put them in exactly the right spot for that as well. And don't forget too, for lengthening and shortening the pants, you always do that towards the middle length of the leg, not at the bottom, because you want to get that tapered edge to be exactly where it should be. And shorten these, you've got to look at the right way as well. If you need to lengthen and shorten around the crotch area, that's where you actually do it up higher. That's why it's always good to make a twill. If you're ever unsure about a particular pattern, if you haven't made pants before you actually buy your good fabric, make a twill of the actual pattern to get your fitting around the crotch area and the backside just perfect. In recent days, I've also noticed they've sent an email out to anyone that has purchased this pattern before the 14th of January. They've had a little typo error as far as lengthening the pants to add on extra a few extra centimeters. They've written exactly what you need for that, so it can help with people that are quite tall that need adjustments there. So that will be in the new patterns, or it'll already be included. But if you purchased a pattern previously, just check your emails and also check your spam folders, because sometimes they tend to go there instead. So my elastic ready, got my pattern pieces, I've got my machine threaded up, I've got my snips, and I always find that having an extra bobbin of thread on standby is a lifesaver, because you'll tend to run out right at the wrong moment. Usually when you're just about ready to finish a leg or a hem, you'll be certain that you'll run out of bobbin thread, so always have an extra one on standby. So I think we're ready to start. I'm working with these as per somebody that doesn't have a serger or overlocker, so I'm going to just take you through how I would do it if I didn't have one. Well, I have got one, but I just think it's important for people that don't have one to know there are other ways of finishing seams off, as like, for example, pinking shears or zigzag. So I'm going to use the zigzag option for you guys to see today. So the first thing we're going to do is to finish the outer edge of the unnotched edges of the pocket facings. So basically the inner edges you'll see has got a little notch here, so we know that's the inside. So we're going to just zigzag along the outer edge from one end to the other. Same thing goes with the outer edge of the pocket. Okay, you'll see the front pockets. There is an inner and an outer edge. So the inner edge is without the top notch. So we need to go down this way as per instructions along the edges. Process we need to do is a stay stitch. This helps prevent bagging out of your edging. So we'll change back to a straight stitch. Okay, stay stitch along the diagonal edge of the front pants. So we need to get our front pant pieces. We'll set your stitch a 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. It just helps keep it nice and stable. Thing we're going to do is the front pockets. So with right sides together, pin your pocket edge facings to your front pant. Okay, so we're going to get our front pant. And those funny little facing pieces that we just finished off the edges of. And you'll see there's a notch cut into each one, and you need to then measure up the right spot. The notches should line up together, and just use a couple of pins to get it all lined up nicely. All the way down to the pocket edge. You'll see there, that's your pocket edge facing. Okay, and we'll do the other side now. Really important step not to forget is the understitching. So you always want to make sure that your facing side is understitched, so that when it turns into itself, it gives you that nice flat fold line. Attach your seam allowance in with your facings, so we're going to understitch just along there. Okay. So we're going to do the understitching on the other side of the pant. It really does help keep the shape, especially when you're pressing it. It'll fold in under itself a lot better than if you had that still had that bulk sticking in between. So understitching is really important. The next thing we have to do is take this pocket edge facing and press it. So I'll go and do that now and I shall return. So front butt sides up, we're going to slide the front pocket under the front pant, and you've got to align the notches as well. So you'll see the notches that we were talking about at the start. That's the top, that's the inside. So what we've got to do is get the front pant, okay, which is this one. Okay, the seam has been pressed in. Now we've got to put that underneath and align the notches. So you'll see there's a notch there. Okay, so we've got to pin that there. Okay, pin there, pin the facing in. Okay, and then the same thing with the side. Has to meet up at the side. So you'll see the notches down below here should meet up perfectly. And that's why cutting notches is a really important thing when you're cutting out your pattern pieces, because they're there for a reason. They're there to help you line everything up and get it all perfect before you sew. And that will then make that pocket bag, as you can see the inside there. The best thing to do is to attach some basting stitches along the top here and along the side, just to keep it all in place. So start here where your first pin is. So nice long stitch. Okay, and along the side here, and that will keep it all nice and level for when you're doing your top stitching on your pocket fronts. And remember, before we were talking about this guide, if you need to use this as a guide, this can be your top stitching guideline. It's totally up to you whether you want to do it or not. There's got a pocket stitch line along there and along the bottom. Or if you're feeling confident and you don't need that, you can just stitch along where you can feel the pocket edge underneath. And I think last time I just did that, I just went with it, with the feel of it, and it ended up looking really quite good. But if you're not confident, use your top stitching guide. Let's put a few pins just to keep that back bit stabilised while you're stitching your top stitching line this edge of the fabric is. Just about there. Another thing that could be handy to do is chalk, using chalk and ruling the pocket bag lines along there as well, but I'm just going to do it I feel. So nice small stitch line. And go nice and slowly. And remember, it goes down on a slight angle. So always go by, use the feel of the edging underneath, use your fingers as a guide. And that's your top stitching. Now if you wanted to get interesting, you could use a different colour thread for your top stitching. If you had denim, you could use a nice light denim thread, coordinating thread. And we need to do 2 rows of stitching along the pocket bag, so a double row. So make sure you can see that you've caught everything in there. You've got to be really careful and make sure that's all caught up. So then what we'll do to make sure, we'll go on the inside, and it has to be quite close to the other stitch line. Line up your sewing machine foot with your edging as well, your top stitching from your last row, just so you can keep it nice and straight. And the pockets on this pair of pants are a really interesting feature. I think they're just, the reason I like them is because they don't add a lot of bulk to the hip on the side. They're more of a flat front pocket, which is like an angled pocket, which is a really nice streamlined look. So we'll take all these pins out. And there is your front pocket done. So you can see you've got your stitch line there as well. And one thing I've forgotten to do, I just realised, okay, is the top stitching on the pocket front facing. I just realised that hasn't been done, so we can do that now. That's nice and close to the edge. To see that the pants won out with my poll that I did, because I think people, a lot of people are scared of attempting pants because they think they're a bit more complicated. See, in this tutorial, they're actually not as complicated as what you think. There's a few different steps that you might not be used to, but all in all, they're actually quite easy things to make. Now, what we're going to do is line up the notches. You can see my Janome machine is just a basic entry-level machine. I think it, about 4 years ago, I think it cost me about $400 to $500 back then. And it just does everything I need it to. It's not like digital, as you can see, it's not top of the range, but it's got a lot of just good basic stitches. I've never had a problem with tension or anything like that. So I think you can really get a lot of use out of a machine that's not too high-tech and too scary, especially when you're learning to sew. remember to pin your pocket down flat on the inside so that when you are doing your top stitching it doesn't bunch up. So that's your first row of top stitching. Row on the inside using your machine foot as a guide to run along that stitching. Okay. So you've got your two finished front pocket bags and top stitching. So we're going to move on to the next step now. Okay, the next step is to secure the top of the pocket opening by sewing through all layers the existing pocket. So we're going to sew down to about here where that little angled pivot is, and that's just an extra row of stitching to help keep the pocket intact. Otherwise too much wear and tear there will eventually probably bag out the pocket. So we're going to do a row of stitching and stop about here. Are optional back pockets to this pair of pants, which I've decided not to go with, only because sometimes linen pants they can have a lot of ease in them, and sometimes a back pocket it can bag out a little bit, so I've decided to keep the back pieces flat. So if you're making the tapered leg version, which is what we're doing, and you plan to roll at the bottom hem, you can do a flat felled side seam, so when you've rolled them up you won't see your inner stitching, but that's totally up to you. Just before I mentioned the side panels that we had cut out, that you needed to remember your top and your bottom. The way I just did that is I cut two little notches so that I knew that that was the top. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put right sides together, pin your side pant to your back pant. We are going to line up our notches with our side panels. So remembering the top has got the two notches. Otherwise they're quite easy to mix up. Okay, that's definitely the bottom and the notches are in the top. So then we're going to line up our notches on the sides. Okay, we want to have that nice neat flat felled hem, which is like a French seamed edge. So we're going to put wrong sides together first, or you can do this with an overlocker if you prefer to skip this step altogether. Wrong sides together first. And then we're going to always trim all the excess off before I do the right sides together. I'm catching that seam that we've just sewn. It gives that nice internal look. You need to press that down flat, but because we're going to stitch down on the outsides, we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so that's that piece, and then you repeat for the other side as well. So we'll go to our other back piece, notches, so we know that's the top. Okay, and then we find our side notches to match our sides. But because we're doing French seaming, we need to make it the opposite way around. So we're going to put wrong sides together first. So we're going to top stitch right down. Seaming is a totally optional thing. You don't need to do this. You can overlock it if you're happy with that. This is only really if you want to get that nice clean finish on your internal seams, so that when you roll the pants up, they'll look really neat. So you'll see that a bit of the French seaming hasn't been caught in properly. So you can either choose to trim that off yourself. You've got to be really careful with that bit because you can quite easily put a hole in there. I'll probably get onto that when I press it. We're going to do the exact same thing with joining the front pant to the side panel as well. So I will get onto that now, and then we'll go and press and top stitch. Now we've pressed the seams in, we're going to do the top stitching along both of these French seams. One pant set right side out and slip the leg down into the leg of the pant that's inside out, so that right sides are together. So we're going to align our crotch seams and pin in place. So one pant is going to be inside out, one pant leg right side out. Find your crotch and guide it through. One leg and the other, join up your seams and pin your crotch in the center. And then we are going to stitch, and if you have an overlocker, you can overlock your edges, or you can zigzag. It's totally up to you. So first we'll do a stitch. We're going to stitch along the inside crotch, so make sure your center seam is pinned so it doesn't move around. And starting from the top. we're going to do is finish off our seam, so either an overlocker or a zigzag stitch, and then we're going to clip our curves, but no clipping at the bottom section, just the curved front and back. So I'll get to that, I'll show you. So we'll just do a zigzag. When we're clipping the curves, we're going to clip in here and in here, but not the middle bottom section. So just a few little snips up to your stitching line, and that helps keep the curve nice and flat. Next thing we're going to do is press the seams towards the right side, and then we're going to do a flat stitching down the front line. So now we have our waistband, and you need to make sure your notches are cut for your sizes and your side and top there. Okay, so with right sides together, we're going to sew the waistband facings together at the center front and the center back ends. So center front would be the 1 notch just here. Center back would be the 2 notches. So and then we're going to go and press the seams open, right sides together. We're going to attach the waistband now. So right sides together, okay, waistband facing, that's so we need to find the center front and the center back. And time to stitch your waistband down. We'll start from the back.
So I will trim all the thick pieces off first. But we don't want to trim too much off because then we won't have the enough to understitch. So just be careful of that. So start from the side, catching that into that. Going to turn the waistband towards the inside and press along the understitched line. Next we are going to sew right around the waistband bottom, but we're going to leave an opening at the back so we can get our elastic through there. So we'll start at the back. So we've threaded the elastic through, as you can see here. You've got to make sure that the elastic is sitting nice and flat. Elastic is the right way around and it's not like flipped over, because if it's doubled over and it'll be all twisted up. So keep it together nice and flat, and then we're going to join the elastic together. And before you do that, if you're not sure about your waist measurements, it's a good way to test by safety pinning it together and checking it's got the right measurement. So, checking that it's all flat, we're going to get our gathers to be evenly dispersed before we stitch it up in the back. And that looks, yeah, it's gathered up really nicely. So then we want to finish encasing the elastic. Moves around inside your casing, you can put some stitches through the fabric and the elastic to keep it stabilized. But before you do that, you want to make sure that you've spread out your gathering properly, because once it's stitched, it's not going to spread itself around. So make sure it's properly evenly gathered. And a good way to do it is stretch it right out, tight as you can go, and then let it all move around. And you'll see that's given it a really nice shape. At each seam line. So here we'll do this side. And then I'll usually do one through the back and one through the front. The easiest way to do the hems is just to do a double rollover hem, or you can always overlock and then hem them up if that's what you want to do. It's a bit easier, but we want to catch in that all those seams as well. So just a nice narrow hem. Got thicker fabric, you might want to double press that. This being a really light fabric, doesn't need to really be pressed. It actually sits really nicely in a double fold. And I'll repeat the other side, and then I will show you how they look finished. So there is my finished Sew House 7 free range slacks. Now I need to go and trim off all my excess threads. The best thing to do is try them on, see the length that you like, and then you can roll up the bottoms twice, which is what they've got in the actual, on the front of the pattern. And you can stitch your side seams if you want to keep that leg rolled up. If not, you can just have them full length as well. And you can see by doing the French seams on the inside, the bottom legs, it's given that nice clean finish that you wouldn't have just with overlocking. So you don't need to do the whole leg inside, just the first probably third of the leg. So yeah, I'll get some footage of me modeling these and some photos, and I'll give them a good press first. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked what you saw here today and you want to see more of my sewing channel, don't forget to click and subscribe and hit the little bell to get notified when my newest episodes are coming out. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that today, and I will see you very shortly for a new episode. Bye for now.